You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This week's episode is brought to you by Clothes for Chiro, Zinget Solutions, Imaging Services, Posture Screen, Dr. Peter Goldman's Zone School of Healing, Everest Coaching Systems, Bax Max, Chiro Thin, Rhino Coaching Systems, Chiro Moguls, 5-Star Management, The Goodman Factor, Mahalo Wellness, Chiro Health USA, Local Gold, and Go Get Talks. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 116 of Chiro Hustle. I'm Luke. Here's Jim.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Nemani Delaibatiki, and I hope I said his name the right way. Most people know him as Manny. And if you want to learn about how he's bringing chiropractic to the South Pacific, stay tuned. So Dr. Manny, it's crazy to call you doctor because I've known you for so long and now you're finally a chiropractor. But let's get down to the basics of you. What influenced you to become a chiropractor, and tell everybody your chiropractic story?
So my chiropractic story for me started more here in the U.S. I actually came to the U.S. to play rugby. I actually saw a chiropractor back in New Zealand when I got injured, which was my first experience with chiropractic. Didn't really know what it was about. I got told by my physiotherapist that I wasn't going to play club rugby again for a while. I went to a chiropractor and then I was back out sooner. Didn't know what that was about, and then came to the US through an opportunity to come play club rugby. Ended up meeting with the guys at Palmer. I actually played against them at a sevens tournament. And then, long story short, I ended up coming to Palmer to visit. Felt the vibe at the school at that time, and the brotherhood that everybody had, and that's how I got into chiropractic in Davenport, Iowa.
And ever since then, you've been involved with Palmer and then gone on to Life West and still been heavily involved with rugby, right?
Absolutely. More on the coaching side. I'm not involved with Life West anymore in regards to coaching. They've got a lot of good coaches here that have been doing a tremendous job with some good leadership, with the athletic director and a lot of good coaches. But yes, I got involved both with Palmer and Life West with their rugby program.
So people that don't know you, where did you grow up, man?
Well, I grew up in New Zealand. I was born in Fiji. Family went back and forth between the two countries. But for me, even though I came to the US from New Zealand, for me, Fiji was always home. For many reasons. I think I'm more the ocean beach kind of guy. That type of tropical setting. That sort of was more my kind of place, which is why Fiji was always home. Plus, my parents were from there, which is why Fiji was home for me. So I grew up there, and then, like I said, I had an opportunity to come to the US to play club rugby, and I've been here ever since.
So you didn't find too many beaches in Davenport, Iowa, did you?
No, there was a different scenery down there, but
yeah, it's been really cool to see your career develop and how you've come from the guy that was playing club rugby to now the doctor of chiropractic. Let's talk a little bit more about you and what makes you unique in this chiropractic space now. I know you've been doing some really great work back in your home country of Fiji.
Yeah, well, I think we all have a purpose. I believe, and for me, being somebody from the South Pacific, a Pacific Islander now in chiropractic, I believe my purpose is to help share the chiropractic message back to our people in the South Pacific. And, me being one of the only few Pacific Islanders in the profession, I feel it's my duty to do that. And a couple of years ago, me and a couple of friends got together and went to Fiji for the first time with the goal of taking chiropractic to all the 22 countries in the South Pacific. We're going to do 3 by the end of this year, and there's 3 down, about 18 more to go. With about 21, 22 countries, so 3 down. We've got about 19 more to go after this.
So do you have any favorite motivational quotes or words of wisdom that keep you fired up every day?
Absolutely. One of my big favorite ones, I know this has been out there for quite some time, is you cannot control the winds, but you can always adjust the sails. I've seen it for quite a while, and I think that applies personally to me. A lot of the times we get into we face obstacles, or we get put in front of something where we think, well, you know what, I can't get over this, but at the end of the day, it's really up to you. Whether you can or can't do something, at the end of the day, the driver is you. So the responsibility always lands on your shoulder. So I've always gone with that mantra that if I'm struggling in life and I've coming up with difficulties that I've faced with, I'm the only person that can get myself out of it.
Yeah, and I know that what you were saying earlier is opening doors to the South Pacific, and been able to migrate the chiropractic mission trip into 3 nations now. Yeah. What are you seeing happening because of this level of pushing chiropractic into a positive light for Fiji, for Tonga, and for Samoa?
So personally, I was quite surprised, not because of the hospitality from our people in the South Pacific, but I wasn't quite sure how they would approach chiropractic, a chiropractic presence in the region. And so far, it's been a positive experience. I think, there's a time and reason and a season for everything. And with our purpose, I think we knocked on the door at the right time. And I think our intentions were right. The purpose for us going was also on par with a lot of the beliefs within the South Pacific culture, which is we're quite big on giving back. We're big on anything that's natural, more holistic. So with that approach and us coming to the South Pacific, we had to make sure that we did our A, B, and C's right in regards to, there's different things you cannot do in the South Pacific. And we wanted to make sure that traditionally and culturally, we did the right things to be accepted by the people first before we made our move to go visit.
And to follow up, what is it like to have the support of the local governments to make this smooth transition?
Pretty big, actually. I'm still pinching myself right now about how fast this has gone. When we started this 2 years ago, we never really foresaw the fast pace and the momentum this has taken. I think, like I said before, in regards to us going to Fiji, I think we told, if you're honest about your intentions, we told the government what we wanted to do and what we were there for. All the doors opened, and I think I've spoken to both you and Luke about this in the past. In Fiji or in any other South Pacific country, if you get the people at the top of the government, the local leaders, a lot of the doors open a lot faster in regards to coming in and doing something of this nature.
So, what's possible in the future with everything you're doing and accomplishing today? And why is it so important that you get all these mission trips going to a
Uh, so it's quite important for us in the future because I believe not just the South Pacific, the world needs chiropractic, and I see you guys and Jim touch on that a lot with his previous podcast with everybody, and I play a small role in that, and I feel I need to do more in the South Pacific so that I can contribute to that big idea, which Jim talks about with other doctors in regards to this chiropractic message getting to everybody. We don't need a small percentage of people getting it. We want the whole world to get it. And so, that's the big idea. And, I've, in regards to the South Pacific, primarily the big picture is I feel our people need chiropractic because, number one, there are no chiropractors there, so they lack the resources to receive chiropractic care. Number two, after speaking to a lot of the government leaders back in the islands and educating them about what chiropractic can do, right away, without questions, a lot of them were interested and jumped on board. And that usually never happens. So that's a positive for us. Number three, the big picture is I think chiropractic should not be an alternative option. I feel that if we do it right, for example, in Fiji, Tonga, or Samoa, or in any of the islands, if we get chiropractic care as mainstream healthcare and have locals experience chiropractic as mainstream healthcare, as a lifestyle, as an everyday, every week thing, and then let the world out, let everybody outside see the changes that's happening in the South Pacific region, I think that can educate the other countries of, wow, look at what chiropractic is doing in mainstream healthcare in Fiji or in Tonga or Samoa. And that's what we're trying to push in Fiji right now, is not to have us as the number two, number three guy. We want people to come to chiropractic first, and then, all the other professions follow suit.
That's another thing I wanted to ask you. So with all the places that you've already been to, how has your trip there impacted the culture? Has it changed any of the laws, or have they started introducing chiropractic on their own?
Yeah, actually, in Fiji, Fiji, to explain a little bit about the region, Fiji is sort of the U.S., the USA, the big brother in the world stage. In the South Pacific, Fiji is that for the other smaller countries like Tonga, Samoa, and the other region. And so whatever happens in Fiji eventually goes out to the other islands. And so Fiji is quite a big influence in the region. So we felt that right now in Fiji, and a lot of my peers here that are still at Life West, we're putting together rules, laws, and regulation in regards to how chiropractic should be implemented in Fiji. Once that comes out, we'll make sure we'll share it with everyone before we send it over to the government to have it passed through the formal procedures and processes in Fiji. And we want Fiji to be an example of having chiropractic passed at the highest level and implemented into the way of life for all locals in Fiji. So, instead of, like I said before, instead of people going to medical doctor for pain or for other things, their first portal of entry is chiropractors, and then from there things, from there, you can get referred to other professions. But ideally, we want chiropractic to not be an alternative option, but to be the first point of entry.
So I have a few questions for you based on the conversation you and Luke were having there. it seems like if this is going to be something that goes through and becomes adopted and becomes mainstream, don't you think that we're going to have to get some more chiropractors in Fiji?
Absolutely. That's the big, that's the, it's crazy. The group, the more we talk about it and we come back, a lot of people have, been messaging us about, hey, if this does take off, I want to be one of the first ones to go. And all those details haven't really been ironed out yet, because I think for us, our first battle is to push it and to pass it through. Because once that goes in, the Fiji government is going to require, I'd say, at least over 100 chiropractors there to practice. And, with the government as a partner, it's actually a paid position. Ideally, we were talking about it as with some of my peers here that have been on chiropractic trips before, that ideally this could be perfect for kids that graduate right out of school, the first to second year for an overseas experience. You can go to Fiji or the other islands if that does open up to go work for a year or two. And then you can come back to the US and establish yourself. But it would be a good in-between after graduation and where you want to go to start your own practice. Or if you want to live in Fiji for as long as you want, the option is there as well. So right now for us, the big picture is to try and push it through and to make it official and legit, so that all these doors can start opening up for not just Fiji, but the region.
Yeah, and I've known you, like I said at the beginning of the interview, for over 10 years now. Mm-hmm. And how has your position changed from the point where you were a student, coach, family man, to now doctor, and now policy changer?
Oh man, to be honest, this whole new policy making, rules and all that in regards to the official processes and procedures of how the government works is a whole brand new ball game for me. I knew zero things about that system, and so learning it is quite overwhelming. It fascinates me and something I'm excited about, not because of the processes, but because of what it could possibly do in the future. And it's amazing, when I posted it out, a lot of people have been very supportive in regards to ideas on how things could be done or can work better, including you guys, and a lot of people that have gone in the past, on, hey, Mani, I think this would be a good idea. And I'm that kind of guy, this is not my initiative. This is the group's initiative. So as always, we've always had an open door policy to anybody contributing in whatever way, shape, or form to make things better for chiropractic in the region. And this is the start.
But I know you're like, it's about the team, but you being from the region and now being a doctor, that pulls a lot of weight. How has that changed your headspace between how you felt as a student, group contributor, to now I see you as a leader for developing chiropractic in the South Pacific, especially Fiji starting now?
Yeah, it's, well, like I said, a lot of us, we've known each other for quite some time now. And I've had to make a lot of changes, and I'm still making them because now the more we go to Fiji or we go to the region, I have to be more of an example. I have to watch what I say. And slowly now as well, which I've been working on quite hard, is I've got to try and live it as well. And so I've been working on those small things I've got to fix before I get there. The long story for us is eventually, we're not sure yet whether it's before the baby's born or after the baby's born, but I think my calling and purpose is to go back there somewhere. Whether it's Australia, New Zealand, to be closer to the region, or maybe right there in the middle of it in Fiji or one of the other islands.
So where do you see chiropractic going in the next 20 years? And maybe more specifically in terms of these islands that you're taking trips to?
Well, our goal, and I think a lot of chiropractors' goals, is to reach out to places that have never had chiropractic before and to make it grow. And I think, I can't remember when this was and who you were talking to, Jim, but I think there's a lot of chiropractic has been around for a while, right? But we still serve, and we still serve and target a smaller part of the bigger population. And I'm trying to change that in the South Pacific. Slowly, our numbers have grown in regards to people that have come in to get seen. Slowly, we're reaching out to more and more places, and we want to show that instead of getting to a smaller population, we can grow our numbers there. We play a small part in the big machine. And the big idea in regards to what chiropractic is trying to do in the South Pacific. Ideally, I know when we said this in the past, everybody looked at each other like, maybe this might be a bit too much, but I think it's okay to dream. It's okay to aspire. It's okay to see things that might or can work. And we believe that if we keep going the way we are, we keep getting messages from chiropractors that want to actually go to the other islands and set up and practice. So I think slowly but surely, we're going to get to all 21, 22 countries in the South Pacific. The big idea is when everybody talks healthcare in the South Pacific, because I think we desperately need it. In regards to now in the South Pacific, we were quite we're quite big on our food in the South Pacific. But 20 or so years ago, all that food was all natural. In regard, from meat all the way down to the veggies, and everything was homegrown. No pesticides. None of the animals were getting injected so they could grow faster and be processed and put into the grocery stores. But now that's slowly creeping in, and we want to make sure that in the near future, the South Pacific region gets the lead on chiropractic being that first portal of entry. And when we spoke about it as a group, we said, look, if this thing gets bigger, it's not 10 of us. We're going to need more than 50, 100 people to go serve in the region. And we're like, look, okay, for now, when that problem does happen, we'll tackle it then. But for now, let's get this message pushing through, because we firmly believe that we're at the right point in time in the region where doors are opening. And I think once we get this done in Fiji, it's going to start to open up doors a little bit faster in the other countries. And then, we can take it to all the 22 countries.
You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This week's episode is brought to you by Clothes for Chiro, Zingit Solutions, Imaging Services, Posture Screen, Dr. Peter Goldman's Zone School of Healing, Everest Coaching Systems, Max, Chiro Thin, Rhino Coaching Systems, Chiro Moguls, 5-Star Management, The Goodman Factor, Mahalo Wellness, Chiro Health USA, Local Gold, and Go Get Talks. Let's hustle.
So while we're on that topic, how are you marketing this and raising more awareness about it?
So Fiji is really unconventional. So just to paint a picture, in Fiji before we went, our first trip, which was 2 years ago, we told the Fijian government we were coming to visit your country. We're coming to visit the country. Should we bring 10 people for our first visit? And they said, no, you guys should bring over 30. And we said, well, we said, look, it's okay to bring a small group because the interest might not be there. And they said, nope, bring 30. So we took 30 interns and doctors of chiropractic, all included in the number. We took more than 30 and we showed up. I had no idea. I was a bit worried that, because a lot of times in the islands, when they say things, sometimes you got to follow up on them every day to make sure it does happen. Because I've seen that before. They got island time, and a lot of times they might forget certain things you talk to them about. We showed up on day one, and the whole thing just exploded. We served that first trip. The group served over 8,000 people in Fiji, and that the numbers have changed depending on how good or bad they've promoted the event. The smaller group that went, they didn't promote it as such because I think that one happened last minute due to some of the changes in venue, and we had a smaller number. But the last time we went, which was in just this past March, a bigger group again. They promoted it well, added a new city, and the group saw and served over 9,000 people again. And they sent me an advertisement of how they promoted chiropractic. And I know there's no copyright laws in Fiji, but they pretty much they did their own advertising in regards to what they felt chiropractic was. And it's amazing how much research they put into it. They nailed it down to the T in regards to, they even showed the pin cycle and the, with the pin opening and the pin closing. And I was like, wow. So these guys actually showed interest and put in time in regards to what chiropractic's all about. When we went in March, the group got asked by 2 corporate companies to go serve them. So we split up and took 4 or 5 just to go serve these guys. And we rocked up to their corporate location headquarters, walked in, and they had the whole wall covered with chiropractic, the hole-in-one theory. So slowly people are getting the message. People are getting the tick. The interest is growing. And I think the big part that we try to do as a group is every time we go to Fiji is we want to educate people on what chiropractic is and what it isn't. Because in Fiji, a lot of times, a lot of expats and a lot of people that come overseas, they think that it's all about back pain. And we know it's more than that. So as a group, we want to make sure that everybody we touch, say hi to, shake hands to, or see and serve, that we give them exactly what they need to know about chiropractic. And I think that's part of the big purpose as well, is about chiropractic education, because then they can tell other people.
Well, what kind of marketing are you doing to get doctors on board to go on these trips with you?
Right now, we just have a Facebook page. You could just search the South Pacific Chiropractic group page, and it'll pop up. We have a group page that's for those that are looking to go on the trips and those that have gone. And then we have a separate page just to where everybody else can see information on what's happening. And it's been low. That's pretty much the only avenue right now that we're using is Facebook. I'm actually the thing is, you guys might not notice it, but I'm one of those guys that I'm watching what you guys are doing, and I'm watching what other people are doing, because I'm probably the least tech savvy or anything with media and all this stuff. So a lot of this stuff that you guys are doing or other people are doing around in the profession, I'm like, oh wow, like these guys are doing it. Well, maybe that can work for us. And so I've been slowly following everybody, trying to take in as much as we can. And we've got a lot of smart people as well in the group that have taken on some of that role in regards to promoting our group, because I'm probably the worst at it when it comes to all this technical stuff and the media stuff.
So let me ask you a question based on what you've seen happening, maybe a miracle that you've seen happen with the mission trip, and maybe somebody that you've seen that's gone on this and how it's really changed them.
One of our members that have gone with us.
Yeah.
So, for those that have gone, and you guys know a lot of times, Jim and Luke, that in the U.S., a lot of times, we get caught up with different stresses of life, right? Just we've got things we're faced with every day, things we see on the news. It's like our own little bubble, right? And a lot of times we get so busy and caught up with that, and then all of a sudden we get uprooted and taken somewhere else. And I've seen a lot of our kids that have never, some that have never left the country, gone anywhere, and I've taken them there. And I've seen, just by watching and observing them, or them talking to me as well, in regards to, wow, this has been an eye-opening experience. I needed to do this before I graduated, because this would help me appreciate the smaller things in life. It would help me as a chiropractor. My approach now will be different because of this experience. And I think it's not just for Fiji. I think it applies to any of the chiropractors that have done mission trips in Haiti, Dominican Republic, any other country. I think anywhere where you get taken out of your comfort zone, get put in a place to serve, and then you see people that have close to nothing still enjoy the finer things in life. You see them probably happier than a lot of us that have more than they do. A lot of times it stops a lot of people in their tracks, and it makes them think of, what am I doing that's different? And how are they enjoying life when they have close to nothing? I think it puts everything into perspective, and it helps, I believe, a lot of up and coming doctors that get to experience that before they go out, because now it's opened up their eyes and they see something outside of their normal that makes them appreciate more where they've come from, what they're doing in the profession, and how they can serve better.
So let's talk about like an actual case that you've seen somebody get adjusted on one of these mission trips, and how one of these people that didn't know what chiropractic was and never received a chiropractic adjustment, maybe tell one story about how you've seen somebody's life change.
Absolutely. So one of our trips, one of our older gentlemen in Singatoka, which is the rugby town, he got adjusted by one of the docs, and a lot of times I'm usually translating in between tables, so I'm running back and forth. I remember meeting the guy and translating. He told me he had back pain, so I translated to the doc that he had back pain and all the other information that I needed to give. And then within 45 minutes or so, close to an hour, I see him come back, and I'm like, oh, I'm not sure why he's coming. Maybe he's coming back for another adjustment. He thinks he could get this multiple times a day, which a lot of people think they should have. And he comes back and he waves me down, and he said, "Hey, I need to tell you something." And I see the look on his face, the confused look on his face, and he tells me, "Hey, can you explain to me what that guy did?" And I said, "Oh, absolutely." So I gave him the whole chiropractic education spill, and he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Can I tell you something?" And he started telling me something. So he was, an older guy, close to his 70s. He's been through, the wear and tears of life. He works quite constantly every day in the farm, and in Fiji with the heat and everything, it's quite labor intensive. You're out there 8 to 5 every day. And he said, "Yeah, my back feels good," but he goes, "I had another problem." So he came. So he had problem going to the bathroom. He had a problem controlling his bladder. So at random times during the day, he'd have to wear napkins because he had no idea when he would release and urinate. And he said it was getting quite embarrassing because he couldn't control it, so he had to wear a diaper. And he came to us. He said, all I said was I had back pain and you guys did something. And when he was walking back to the gas station, he said all of a sudden he had the urge to pee. So for the longest time, he couldn't control that urge. And immediately right after, he felt that he had that urge to pee. And it sort of, it was one of those emotional moments. I sort of stood there, I knew what chiropractic can do, but I think it just it puts everything into perspective and how important of a job we do as chiropractors. From the small things to the big things, we make changes, and we help in people's lives. And to him, that was a pretty big deal. He wanted to invite people, to come with him, and we said we couldn't. But that was one of the many chiropractic miracle stories that happened in Fiji with that older gentleman. And, I could go on with other different chiropractic stories, but that was one of the very first ones that I saw on our very first trip that really made me appreciate. I always knew what chiropractic was about, but to see that happen back home, to somebody that really wanted to know what chiropractic was about, and he told me to explain to him what it was about so that he could go tell other people what just happened, and little things like that impact, maybe in a small way back then, right then, but we never know how many lives that experience, can touch when he goes back to the village. Because in Fiji or in any other islands, we call it the coconut wireless effect. So in Fiji, or in any of the islands, if you start a story in one end of the islands, by the time you get to the other end of the island, the story is already there. And his example was a perfect example. And every time we go back, people come in and they say, "Oh, I heard this story from someone that came before." So that storytellings of previous experiences are constantly building up, and we want that to happen. And that was one of my first experiences in regards to chiropractic changing somebody's life.
So tell us a little bit more about you. What kind of books do you like to read? What kind of podcasts do you listen to? What are some of your hobbies?
Okay. Have you guys heard of the Chiro Hustle podcast?
I think I've heard of that
one. I follow you guys quite a lot. Every message that comes up, every notification I get of some new show, some new people that get interviewed, I'm always, either I catch it live or I wait till it's done to watch it. It's amazing. Before I add on to the other things I have to say, you guys are providing something that's free, that I think people sort of underestimate the value that you had Cardone, DiMartini. Like, these are people that number one are quite expensive if you were to chase them by yourself, but you guys put them on a platform for everybody to see. I think there should be more and more people following these things. Constantly, I call it the black book, but I have a book that I put down pointers and stuff of everything I hear at seminars or at school on how I could better my approach towards chiropractic and building a chiropractic business. And a lot of that info I got from listening to Chiro Hustle, whether it's live or after, because there's always gems that are coming through from other docs and people that you put on here. So I'm grateful to you guys for that. Books, I'm more old school in regards to a lot of the information I get. I'm not quite big on some of the literature that's out now. But I know when I was in Palmer, Davenport, Iowa, I first got introduced to the Green Books. And that was through not just the school, but through the Pie House. The brothers there were quite big on it. When I came to Life West, a lot of the things that I've been looking at now are just the different approaches in regards to protocol and how to approach different problems in regards to chiropractic, more patient-centered, and what you need to do as a chiropractor, because things are always evolving and changing. But I want to make sure that I don't get too far stretched where I forget what chiropractic, why chiropractic first started, which is back to, the subluxation. Because a lot of times, if I get caught too much with a lot of the info and things that are changing, you lose the whole meaning behind why chiropractic was first started. So I want to make sure that I keep those two sort of together.
Well, we are coming up on the tail end of this episode. What are some other websites that people can visit if they want to learn more about you or get involved?
So that's one of our downfalls as a group, as we've been, as of right now, our only way to, the best way to approach us or to contact us is through Facebook. We've been talking about our website for about, I think, a year now. And we have a lot of people that have a lot of good insight in regards to building that up. I think we started it, but we just haven't launched it yet. And I personally need to follow up with where that's going, because I think, that's a good avenue as well for people to just click on the link and see all the information come up.
So is there anything that we didn't cover with you today that you'd like to talk to the audience about?
No, I think, we pretty much covered what I wanted to talk about in regards to this platform. And I just want to say, knowing you, Jim, and, meeting Luke as well, I think sometimes this sort of platform gets underrated. I've paid a lot of money to go to different seminars, which are all fine and perfect. But I think people need to look for other avenues for resources. And one of my golden gems is watching podcasts, listening to podcasts. I did the same as well with the chiropractic philanthropist
At Osborne.
And Osborne. So everything I can get, I'm when I'm driving in the car somewhere, I just plug on I play a replay, plug it in the car, and here I go. It's playing the whole time. And I just want to encourage people that maybe have never really accessed podcast or this avenue to get resources. It's helped me quite a lot. So I would just encourage people that are looking for other means and ways to get better or to get information. I think media or podcasting and this type of avenues and platform you guys are providing is one of those ways you could do that. Another thing as well, you guys are two badasses that have done a lot of things that people thought were impossible. Number one is just the whole you have this new project going, and I followed you guys launch in Chicago with the video Patient in the Box, and just it's crazy at school. People are always wondering about how can we get new patients in the door, and it's amazing that this didn't come from me, but another student that probably knows you guys, I'm not quite sure, but said, hey, those guys, the Chiro Hustle guys, they got that. So whatever you guys are doing is working, because slowly students are talking about it, about how to get patients in the door, because even students out here in California are talking about your guys' project and the things you've done in the past, because you've made it work. And now, the whole chiropractic communities on the bus about it. So I want to commend you guys for. It's not easy, but you guys pulled it off, man.
Well, it's been a lot of heavy lifting and a lot of project development. As you can see, bringing policy to the South Pacific doesn't take one person.
Absolutely.
You always refer to the group.
Yep.
So we are a group as well. And it does take charismatic leadership like you've exampled. And it takes somebody to actually do the work to be recognized. And I think that that's what keeps us on the same frequency is we recognize how hard you've worked to be where you're at. And that's why I think it's so important to share your message to the audience. And it is nice to hear the feedback that what we're doing is having some type of an impact and the appreciation is there. Because, there's many days where we just work and do our job and we don't realize, just like the big idea, we don't realize how much impact we're having on millions of lives.
Absolutely.
We can talk about 9,000 people getting served on one mission trip, or we can talk about 15,000 people listening to one episode. But what about the stories now that you're telling people because you've listened to one episode? What about the story about that one person that had that one adjustment that's telling the whole village?
Yeah.
So it's consistency that will win for both of us.
Absolutely.
And I think that that's really the truth behind when we take our emotion and we make that into a movement. That's really what we've done with Hustle, and that's really what we've done with New Patients in a Box. And that's why it's important to collaborate and to work with people like yourself that are doing great work as well.
Appreciate it. And thanks for the platform and for inviting me here. So good thing today, none of the kids are sick, so I'm on 100%.
Awesome.
Well, thank you for being on the show today. We had a lot of fun, and now we just want you to enjoy the rest of your afternoon, all right?
Cool. Same to you guys, man.
See you, Doc.
Bye.
See you later.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.